Belmino asks, when will you do a Dark Souls 1 Some Things Are Possible series? Deity, do you like pineapples? Unfortunately, Deleted User asked, is this channel recommended by 9 out of 10 dentists? Xander, what is your opinion on carrot cake? Michael, what is the airspeed velocity of an unladen swallow? And of course, Uli had to chime in and ask African or European. Speaking of Uli, he had these wonderful questions ready to go. How is Babby formed? What's your favorite animal of all time? What's your favorite Christmas movie? And why is it Die Hard? What is your favorite question ever? Do you plan on releasing a question and answer video in our lifetimes? That's what you can expect in this video. Hey everyone, it's BlueLizardJello and welcome to my latest question and answer / update video. It has been quite some time since I've done one of these. The last time I think we were around 18,000, 20,000 subscribers, and I also used that to announce the birth of Pudding, who is now 5. And we have another baby. This is not an announcement about that. Hopefully you've caught that in the various bit of social media, but I put this out there a while ago. This idea of I wanted to do another question and answer video, and I've gotten a lot. I have something, I think 52 questions, some as hard-hitting as those I've already mentioned, and some that are actually really good and I can't wait to get into. Sorry for those of you whose questions I've already read, but answers not coming right now. I'm going to focus on the more important things, but this is also going to serve as an update video. I have a few things that I want to talk about, a few things that are going to impact the channel starting now and moving forward, and just some other things that I want to speak freely about with all of you. So the gameplay that you should be seeing right now is of Bloodborne. You probably recognize it, and this is me starting a brand new character for some Everything Possible preparation. I would normally say don't get your hopes up, but I think it's actually safe to say you can go ahead and get those hopes up. So I guess that's update number 1. But I just want to get right into the first bit of my updates, and that update is on the move. So 2 years ago, we up and moved, we being my entire family, which is Moshi, Pro Mini Moshi, myself, Blue Lizard Pudding, and Blue Lizard Custard, I guess is the baby's blue name. And we moved from Denver, Colorado to Massachusetts. Massachusetts is where I was raised, it's where I was born. And then I moved to Pennsylvania, and then I moved to Denver, that's where I met Moshi. And now we're back in New England. Now we lived in Massachusetts for about a year. We actually lived with family, which was incredibly helpful. And then we were able to purchase our own place, which is where I'm at right now, a year ago in Rhode Island, the smallest state in the country, and we love it. It is so nice being so close to a lot of my family, but also we have water surrounding us, and we definitely have found that the kids love the beach, so it's been an absolute blast. Now, speaking of moving, someone did have a really good question. Let me go ahead and find it here. Zeffy asked, first, did the move go well? It did, to a degree. Once we actually got on the road, it was really smooth, shockingly. It was a 3-day drive. It was, I believe, just about 2,000 miles, almost exactly. I had hired a moving company originally, and we got scammed. We lost quite a bit of money because the moving company never showed up. It was my fault entirely. I should have checked the reviews. Better Business Bureau, they might be a questionable organization at times, but when it comes to moving companies, I have found that they are fairly reliable, because when people are unhappy, they will post a comment there. And I would have learned that this company is just unbelievably unreliable, and getting money back from them is impossible. So unfortunately, once we realized that we had been scammed, we were able to get a U-Haul and a rental car, and we drove a moving truck, a rental car, and the one car we kept. We sold one of our cars, and between me, Moshi, a very pregnant Moshi at the time, and her brother, we were able to move in 3 days, actually very, very smoothly. So the move itself did go well. The events leading up to it did not. What about any advice that you feel for those who are going to move that they should prepare for before doing so? Do your homework and decide if you're going to move yourself or if you're going to use a moving company. If you're going to use a moving company, ask around. Look at every review. Look at every negative review and see if it's something that the company really did drop the ball on, or if it's simply a matter where the customer set their expectations too high. But if you get a bad feeling, don't give them your money. Don't give them your money. As far as other aspects about moving, don't do it on a whim. When I moved from Pennsylvania to Denver, I really did do it on a whim, and it worked out, but it was a very, very stressful time at first. So unless you have nothing to lose and no one that is relying on you, make sure you know where you want to go and how long you want to be there for. It's okay to say you want to move someplace for just a matter of months if you plan accordingly, but don't go somewhere hoping it's only going to be a matter of months, and then financially you get stuck and you end up being there for a lot longer, and you may be miserable, you might be lonely, you might be stressed, you might be worried about the income. So just plan accordingly is what I will say about that. Some other fun questions that have come up. Sentinel asked, what is your favorite game and why is it Shower with Your Dad Simulator? He didn't specify a year, however, so that question is now null and void. Skeetus, you may not know this, but I actually hired Skeetus, and when I say hired, he did it mostly out of the goodness of his heart, although there was some compensation that we finally worked out. He wants to know, I had hired him to edit some of my videos to make it a little bit smoother for us, and he asked, how many times have I been fired and how many times will I be fired? Both of those counts are completely innumerable, and please just use this message as the final firings. Your services are no longer required. Thank you, Skeetus. The Bean asked, do you like turtles? I love turtles. Absolutely adore turtles. I can actually hear it's not a turtle, it's a tortoise, although we've talked about turtles and tortoises before with Elden Ring. Every tortoise being a turtle, not every turtle being a tortoise. But we have a hermit's tortoise in the other room, and I hear her scratching at her pen. I should probably let her around here soon. Zip Bang Crash asked, sparkling or flat? Inquiring minds want to know. So funny thing about this is that this was just a question that she had on my members only post that I made recently. I'll talk about memberships here in just a moment. And, you know, okay, sparkling or flat, could be water, could be wine, I suppose, soda even. But we were just watching Futurama, one of the more recent episodes, as it re-released on Hulu. And one of the questions was sparkling or flat, and I had to ask her if she meant the Futurama reference, and it was not, but she did actually watch it. It's Doong. So it's actually dung, but it's Doong. And anyway, it's a great episode. So thank you for that question. All right, Brown Jersey asked, when doing your Everything Possible videos, how many times do you have to play through the game to map everything out and understand the lore before you can record the one that gets uploaded? The real answer is that it all depends. I typically tell people for every hour of Everything Possible you see, there's at least 6 hours of preparation before I even hit the record button. And that's on average. Sometimes it's minimal because the area is not too complicated. Sometimes there is so much to talk about that it can take 8+ hours before I will ever hit record and be happy with what I've done. And then of course there's editing and rendering and uploading. Every hour of Everything Possible, I would say ultimately has about 8 to 10 hours from start to finish. So from the time I start practicing and note-taking, researching, till the time it is available on YouTube, or at least processed on YouTube. It's a long time. Draco, kind of in response to that, said, still needs to do Bloodborne someday. Well, working on it. Working on it. Golden Eagle asked, how did I come up with the name BlueLizardJello? I've talked about this, I know, on stream before. It's not a very good story, if I'm being completely honest. This is going way back. I won't say exactly how long, but it's back in the days of AOL when home computers and internet were really just becoming commonplace. And my family got our first computer, and we got AOL, and my dad was creating usernames for everyone to go on and use AIM, Instant Messenger. And he gave us all some usernames. I have no idea what my original one was, but I immediately, because I wasn't using it, I forgot what the password was. And even though there was a password recovery system, we didn't know how to do it. We were all technologically illiterate at the time. And so he just said, forget it, I'll just make you a new account. Oh, look, this name generator allows you to put in random words and it'll give you a new name. I said, cool, let's do it. He goes, all right, give me a first word. I said, blue. He said, all right, give me another word. Lizard. I love lizards. And I love blue. So blue and lizard. Give me a third word. Jello. Maybe I was eating Jello at the time. Maybe I was thinking about Jello, but I gave him blue and lizard and Jello, and AOL's infinite wisdom, it came up with BlueLizardJello. I was about 12 years old. Again, I'm not telling you how long ago that was, but it was a while. I've been BlueLizardJello. If you find BlueLizardJello online, it is me. Gonzalo My question is, what happened to everything possible in Elden Ring? This is going to lead into my update. And I think I'll actually address that here right after I answer your question. What happened to it? I became overwhelmed by a number of things. There was things happening in real life. That's always a situation, or that's always a process I have to deal with. But I'm overwhelmed by the project itself. And everyone has wished me luck because it is a massive undertaking. My blind playthrough was over 200 parts, and I missed stuff. And I wasn't taking as much time as I could have, and as I do in Everything Possible. So when I look at potentially a 200 plus but hour long episode series, and when I say that for every hour 6 to 10 or 8 to 10 hours go into it before it's ready, huge time commitment. So I've become overwhelmed. It is going to happen. I'm not promising that it's happening right now. So let me talk about the next update that I want to discuss, and that is the idea of what's going on with the channel right now and where's it going. In recent months, and even really within the last year, you have seen an influx of content. Probably more content than I have ever produced happened within the last 12 to 18 months, which is great. But when you look at what content, what videos, what series I've been producing, and more importantly, what videos and series I've been completing, there is a huge disparity between what this channel was known for, what I was known for, and my brand, and what's actually being delivered to all of you. And when we start looking at those projects that haven't been completed, just the ones that are there right now, Everything Possible in Elden Ring, my Demon Souls, even though I'm on the last video, Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom, Remnant 2, Final Fantasy 16. Then you go back a little ways and you have Death Stranding, you have Ghost of Tsushima, you have Grime. Basically, when I go through all the projects that I haven't finished, I'm looking like the Fox TV network. Worse. Absolutely worse. So why is that? Why do so many of these things get started and then left without any sort of formal announcement that they're over? And I'm here to hopefully explain that to you. Not make excuses, but give you a reason. When I start these projects, I do have every intention of finishing them. I never start a project thinking, haha, I'll just do 10 of these and be done. No. I do one-offs sometimes, and I've made that very clear that I am doing this as a one-off, and those are going to continue. I'll kind of backburner that for a moment. But if I start a series, I have every intention of finishing. But, best laid plans of mice and men, and, intentions only go so far, and other platitudes and sayings. But when I start these, and then something new comes in. So like Final Fantasy 16 came out, Remnant 2 came out. I suddenly feel this need, this responsibility to switch gears onto that something new, that something shiny. But as a content creator, even though the channel is small, it is small, and I'm looking over at myself like, right, it's small? Yeah, it's small. It does bring in a small bit of income, a small bit of revenue. And it's something that we've actually, as a family, grown to rely on. Probably foolishly so, because you should never really rely on YouTube revenue, but we have. And in order to constantly chase that revenue, I thought it's in my best interest to chase the next big thing. Whatever the next big title is, I'm going after it. And so I get this hodgepodge, this mix match of games and genres coming at me from all different sides, and I feel like I need to grab a hold of all of them, somehow thinking that I can juggle 9 series in the air without all of them coming crashing down. And so then I become overwhelmed, and I get stressed, I get anxious, and I don't upload for a few days. Those few days become a week, and then after a week I realize, oh my gosh, I'm letting everyone down. And unfortunately, the anxiety of feeling like I'm letting people down makes me pull back even more. Suddenly, I'm no longer reading YouTube comments, let alone responding to them. I'm not even participating in the Discord where I have very close, dear friends in. I just avoid social media altogether, which can be a good thing, but I am completely shut off, and that further perpetuates the cycle of guilt that I'm not producing and I'm not giving content on a daily basis. And it takes, unfortunately, sometimes a while for me to snap out of it and get the kick I need to get back into it. But by then, something new's come out. So now I'm jumping into something new and something else is being left behind. And it's this constant cycle that just eats away at me. And unfortunately, that has led to my brand being, not entirely unintended, tarnished. My brand, I think, at some point was, hey, BlueLizardJello, he's that guy who makes really comprehensive walkthroughs for Dark Souls and Bloodborne one day and Sekiro and the Surge games. And we can rely on him to give us some really in-depth, meaty, hopefully edutainment. So hopefully it's educating, but it's also entertaining. But now it's BlueLizardJello. Yeah, he's that guy I can't rely on anymore because I don't want to get invested in a series knowing it's going to stop. And I've had those comments recently, and it hurts, but it's necessary because it's honest. And that's what I want, is honesty and transparency. So that's what's been going on with the channel. In a moment, I'm going to answer a few more questions. I want to talk about what is going to be happening with the channel forward. So I kind of categorize some of these questions, and I'm moving into what I consider just the life questions. Questions about life in general. They might still be game related or game adjacent, but just kind of things to talk about life. So let's move on to, let's see. Oh, and X-Proved. X-Proved, you also asked whatever happened to Everything Possible in Elden Ring. Hopefully I've answered that a little bit, but I'm going to be circling back around to it when I talk about what is to come with the channel. Ashen. Great guy, Ashen. Ashen has an awesome channel. He hasn't been uploading recently, and that's okay, but a Hollow Knight walkthrough that is just second to none. But Ashen asked such an interesting, thought-provoking question. Do you ever feel afraid that you will grow out of gaming? I mean, it does depend on the responsibilities one has, but what is your opinion on such a thought? No. Honestly, no. I'm not afraid I'm going to grow out of gaming. If it happens, it happens. The ebbs and flows of life are always here, and things are going to change. But I've been gaming now, again, not to give too much away, but 30 years, 35 years I've been gaming, and I don't see it slowing down. I know, look at this. This used to be blonde and red, and it's not. I don't think I'm going to grow out of it. Here's where I run into problems, though. As someone who makes videos, and I've already talked about my compulsion to make videos and my responsibility I feel to cover a whole variety of games, my concern with gaming is that when I sit down and want to play a game, if I'm not hitting record, I honestly can't answer why I'm playing. I feel like if I'm playing a game, you all need to see it, streaming or video, but I need to be sharing it with you. And I've kept very little back. My concern is that that continues and perpetuates into, again, yet another vicious cycle where I'm only playing games that are going on the channel, which also means that I'm locked into a particular game for a set period of time. So even if something else comes out that I'm really looking forward to, I don't get a chance to touch it because I have no plans on making a series about it. That's already happened with a few games in recent months in the past year. Games that came out and I just wanted to play Jedi, the new Jedi Survivor game. I wasn't going to make any videos or stream it because I didn't do that with the first one. I streamed it a little bit, but I felt bad moving on to the second one, so I never played it. And that's sad to me. And hopefully the update on where the channel is going to address some of that and give me more of that time. I will say I've been playing quite a bit of Diablo 4. If we're friends on PlayStation, you've probably seen me playing Diablo 4, having an absolute blast, and you haven't seen me play it at all because that's mine. That's just mine. Plus, I find Diablo 4 really boring, personally. Captain is honest. I have been the most active in this community when you're able to stream multiple times in a week. I know whenever you ask creators to stream regularly, they always respond with, I'll try to. So instead, I'm going to ask this. This is Captain speaking. What are some factors you need to complete so you can stream regularly? That's not an easy question to answer, but as part of my update, and I'll go into a bit more detail here soon, I am going to do my best to commit to streaming once a week. My personal goal is twice. Shorter streams, probably only about 2 hours, but my personal goal is twice, but I'm going to try to commit to one scheduled regular stream per week. And it might just be me hanging out, just chit-chatting with whoever shows up, playing a game casually. It doesn't necessarily have to be a challenge run or a new game or anything. It might just be that. But that's my goal. As far as what else needs to change, honestly, life just needs to slow down, and that's not going to happen. With 3 kids in the house, ranging from 1.5 years to 13, there's always something to be done. To carve out time even to do this, I'm not saying is difficult, because I have an incredibly supportive partner in Moshi, and actually someone asked that question down below. We'll get to that soon. But it's not that it's difficult to get the time. There's also a responsibility that I feel as a father to be there, to help out, and to help raise the children, raise them right, and not just rely on them doing their own thing or parking them in front of the TV. Maybe down the road, when they get a little bit older and they're in school, and if my job allows it, maybe we can up it more regularly. But again, I'm going to try to commit to 1 a week. My personal goal is twice. Dark Vignale, simple. How is Pudding? Pudding is great. Pudding is 5 years old. He is smart as a tack. He is reading books that he shouldn't be able to read. But if you are familiar with the Last Kids on Earth book series, there are 8 of them, with the 9th coming out. Him and I have been reading through those together every night, and we are on book 7. Books that a 5-year-old has no business reading, but he's so curious about everything, about the world around him. It's amazing to see him grow. And then, of course, Custard, Blue Lizard Custard, who might not have even been around at the time of this question. Some of these questions were asked 2 years ago. So he's also doing incredibly well. Not reading all that well yet, 1.5 years, but fingers crossed. Another deleted user. Some people actually are no longer even with the Discord. That's how long this has been. But when are we going to see Pudding finish the Bugsnax game? Never. Because he starts it over all the time. He just started a new game just the other day in Bugsnax. He's been working on it for years. So simple answer, it's not going to happen. Plus, I don't want him to get to the end because it gets dark towards the end of that. Dr. Sapackley. Yes, Dr. Sapackley. He has been around good old Sip for so long that he is now a doctor across the pond. So congratulations, Dr. Sapackley. He asked, will there ever be a return of the Forgot to Save podcast? I hope so, in some capacity. For those of you who don't know, this is going back years because Sapackley's been with us. My very good, real, personal friend Stone and I, we started a podcast some time ago called Forgot to Save. And the whole premise was, we know that even as gamers, there are a lot of games, really well-known, famous, classic, just revolutionary games that we didn't play. And we wanted to go back to some of those games, play them now, and give our honest opinions. Does it hold up today? Is it as genre-defining as the masses claim? And we had a lot of fun doing it. And then unfortunately, this is also during, I think this is when I was moving to Denver, so about 10 years ago. We just kind of, we didn't lose touch. I talk to Stone almost every day still, but we just haven't found a reason to go back to it. But I'd love to go back to it, perhaps with a new format. Would be a lot of fun. Doctor Who asks, not a real doctor as far as I can tell, but Doctor Who. My question would be, what is a pet you would love to have at home, but you can't for any reason? This is tough. I love animals. I have quite a few pets. I'm actually going to bring some out to show you in a little bit. But what is a pet that I would love to have, but I can't? Honestly, probably something crazy along the lines of a Galapagos giant. And there's several subspecies, but really any of the giant tortoises would do. Although there are some that you can have as pets. They are just incredibly majestic, gentle animals that unfortunately, due to a whole variety of reasons, number one being habitat loss, they are mostly extinct in the wild. Some subspecies are down to a single individual, so unfortunately when they go, that is it for them, at least in the wild. Some are in captivity, but just an incredible animal to see the size that they can become and the lives that they can live. There was a Galapagos giant tortoise that was at the Australia Zoo up until a few years ago. That was, I believe, 185, 186 years old. Charles Darwin gave that to Queen Elizabeth as a baby, as a gift when he returned. Absolutely amazing. I mean, living dinosaurs, really and truly. Greek asks, what's your favorite genre of music and favorite song? I'm not much of a music. I have to just be honest. I'm not. it's not something that has ever really registered with me as something important. Now, I can appreciate music, but I don't listen to music like most people do in the car, while cleaning, doing homework, and things like that. I would rather put on a movie or a show that I know, or at this point, the days of YouTube, I'll put on YouTube or a stream and I'll just listen to that instead. On the rare chance that I want to listen to music, I am very low key. I don't even know what the genre would be called, but Jack Johnson is probably my favorite singer. I just love how laid back he is, and it is incredibly calming to listen to his music. Favorite song though, let's see. I would say Jack Johnson's Bubble Toes is easily one of my favorites. One of the few songs that'll get me dancing. Airborne Toxic Event, Sometime Around Midnight, is absolutely incredible. Love that one. And Death Cab for Cutie, what is it called? Heaven and Hell, I think is what it's called. Something along those lines. I love that song. But I also am a sucker for some musicals. If you put on Chicago, or even better, Little Shop of Horrors, you better believe I will be singing every last word. So let's get back into the channel. Okay, another bit of update. So talked about where the channel has been as of late. Now I want to talk about where it's going. The biggest change that I'm going to make, and I know that this is going to upset some people, but it's better to just rip the Band-Aid off. I'm going to be moving away from chasing the almighty algorithm. You don't know what I mean. The algorithm with YouTube is how you get discovered. So it is based on what your video is about as a gaming YouTuber, what game you're playing, what is your title, what does your thumbnail look like, what is your description, what are your keywords, your SEO, your search engine optimization. And in order to play the algorithm, you're expected to play the newest, biggest thing, have clickbaity titles, have clickbaity thumbnails, sneak things into your description to really bump your numbers up so you're close to the top of the search whenever someone puts in whatever they're searching about on a given game. I've been trying to do that because I thought I had to. Turns out it is soulless, it is passionless, and I'm not even good at it. Go back and look at my titles. You're not going to find, I don't think, a single clickbait in there. So if I was really doing it, I would have had to have gone all in, but the numbers show that I'm terrible at it, and it's not fun. And I don't take pride in most of my videos, and that needs to stop. And because it needs to stop, there are other things that need to stop. As of right now, the only series that is present on the channel and incomplete that I am promising to finish, and I'm not even giving a time frame for, is my Everything Possible in Elden Ring. Everything else effective, Soul Level 1. I love Soul Level 1. My Soul Level 1 series is continuing. I'm still planning on Saturday and Sunday. I know it's been flaky as of late, but Saturday and Sunday I love reserving for Soul Level 1 videos, especially the Dark Souls 2 has been a blast. So Soul Level 1 series and Everything Possible in Elden Ring are the only two series that are safe. Everything else right now, which includes Remnant 2, Final Fantasy 16, Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, and technically the Demon Souls playthrough from way back when, those are all, as of this moment, canceled. Now, I reserve the right to come back to them at another time or to stream their completion. And I know that, especially for the Zelda fans, I made it quite a bit. I'm in the mid 40s in terms of how many parts I put out, and I'm sorry. I love the game. I love Final Fantasy. I love Remnant. But there's no pride in the videos that I've put out. And because there's no pride, I have no drive to continue to put those out. And if I do continue to put those out, it's putting other passion projects further and further behind. So moving forward, what you can expect to see is any video that I put out, any series that I begin has my full attention and it has a passion behind it. Like some of my series before. Dark Souls 1, many of you have told me that you can hear the passion that I have for that game in my Everything Possible. And it's true. That is one of my crowning achievements is that series. Nothing else has really compared especially as of late. Now, that's not to say Let's Plays are going away. Someone asked me this just the other day. Does this mean you're only going to do walkthroughs? No, I couldn't. It's just that those are so much work. I could never just do those. But I'm going to be much more selective. And I'm going to curate a list of those games that I want to cover in Let's Play format very selectively. Some of those that I know I'm going to be doing are Armored Core 6, Blasphemous 2, because I loved Blasphemous, and I hate that those only come out a day apart next week. Lies of P, Lords of the Fallen, and that's actually it for right now. That's already quite a bit. Those are going to get the Let's Play treatment. I want you to see my initial reaction to those games, and there'll be a passion behind it and a pride behind it that we haven't seen in quite a while. Other than that, expect more Souls content, more everything possible, whatever form that takes. But anything that I put out moving forward, it's going to have my stamp of approval before you ever see it. And if I start producing something and I decide that my heart's not in it, you won't even see it. I'm also going to reserve the right to, if I start a series and for some reason I lose heart, then I will make a formal announcement that it's ending instead of just keeping you all on the hook. That's not fair. I hope that some of those changes are exciting to you. For those of you who were looking forward to more Zelda and Final Fantasy 16, I get it, I do, and I'm sorry. But for me in the direction of the channel, I just can't do it. Chris asked, when is Pudding planning to take on his first dragon to prove his loyalty to the Sun Bros? He has played a little bit of Dark Souls. He's played Elden Ring. He will try anything that he sees me playing. He has not killed a dragon yet, though. I'm going to have to put the bug in his ear. He needs to start working on that. Reverie actually asked me about my color blindness. I don't know if this has been answered before, but what type of color blindness does Blue have? So there are tests that you can take, typically little circles with colored dots in it with numbers in it. It'll give you an idea of what type of color blindness you have. I have what is known as protanopia. Protanopia is essentially a red-green color blindness. Mine is only moderate, not severe. I do see colors, but trying to differentiate between some of them can be difficult. However, these right here, these are actually Enchroma colorblind correcting glasses. And thanks to the incredible work of Sentinel and the community years ago, many years ago, they actually pulled money together, because these are not cheap, to get me a pair of these. And now that I'm finally wearing contacts more, I'm able to wear these more often, and it really is a game changer. I can actually see reds and blues and yellows, and they pop. And it's such a cool way to see the world around you. Now they're sunglasses, so I don't typically wear them inside. But going along these lines, Fragus, or Lurker K, he has described it as this, and I think I really appreciate this. He prefers the description of color blindness is, I can feel colors, but I can't neatly identify them. And that's just perfect. I also use crayons as an example. Give me 8 Crayola crayons. I can probably name all 8 of them okay. Give me 16. Let's start slipping up on the blues and the purples, the yellows, the greens, the yellows and oranges, the reds and oranges, depending on their shade. Give me 32 or 64, or God forbid the 128. I'll just cry. Bradtastic Hannah asks, what is your educational background? I need to know how you got to be so knowledgeable about all things nature. So first off, it started way before education. I have always loved nature, always loved being outside, looking at the creepy crawlies, flipping rocks, flipping logs, jumping in the mud, catching frogs, snakes, turtles, all of that wonderful stuff. And then as I got a little bit older, getting books from the library and actually learning what I was seeing and catching in my backyard, identifying them, learning about them. And then when I went to school, I focused on environmental science. So I went to school at a college in Pennsylvania, and I had an emphasis on herpetology, which is the study of reptiles and amphibians, but my major was environmental science. I got tied up with an incredible herpetologist there. I even went to Central America and studied some of the reptiles and amphibians down there. I was able to help catch some salamanders that were used in a BBC documentary, these boletoglossid or web-toed terrestrial, actually arboreal salamanders. So their feet are webbed, not for swimming, but for climbing trees and bromeliads. Absolutely incredible. I can tell you exactly when you can look for my specific salamander in BBC's documentary, Life in Cold Blood. But that education got me to essentially where I'm at now. Now, what am I doing right now? Nothing to do with environmental science. I actually work for the Department of Veteran Affairs. It's funny because another big Souls creator out on YouTube also does that. We've never met, but we do work for the same federal department. And I'm a trainer. I'm an educator within the department. I train new employees and seasoned employees alike. Anytime there are new systems that come out, or even just if it's any sort of soft skills training, I am training nationwide, virtually, but nationwide. So teaching and training have always been a part of who I am. I just tried to do it more with an educational spin on the environment and the animals that live therein, but I couldn't make it pan out financially speaking. So I'm okay with that. I still use my education, obviously for fun in the videos, but also typically with civilian science projects. Out in Colorado, I was part of a rattlesnake monitoring program. Here on the East Coast, I haven't yet, but I'm hoping to get linked up with some folks doing some research into frog populations, as well as diamondback terrapins, which is a really cool brackish water species we have here of turtle on the East Coast. The Old Mundane asks, what are some of your favorite hobbies and interests in your lifetime outside of gaming? Well, I already talked about some of them, being outside, nature, but also one of the biggest ones that takes up my time is also the animals that we keep. And I thought instead of just telling you, maybe we should do a little show and tell. And I suppose we should just start with the most impressive. This is Bruce. This is Bruce, our 2-year-old. That's right. 2 years old, Artinian black and white tegu. We like to refer to him as a scaly puppy. Now, he's hungry right now. He has not had his breakfast just yet, so he's a little bit anxious to eat. But he is just such a cool animal, super smart, super intelligent. Seems to enjoy to be around people. He will actually scratch to try and get out, and he seems like he'll chase you, but really he just wants to be around you, which is pretty cool. But this is Bruce. Hi, Bruce. Much smaller, but a lot easier to manage. This is Beatrice, our Herman's tortoise. This lovely gal right here is Frankie, our very, very yellow bearded dragon from Australia. Now I'm going to be very careful with these little fellas. See if I can get it to focus. This is a newborn leopard gecko. This morph right here is known as a super snow. He has a sibling that is a max snow, completely different coloration, but we also raise and breed leopard geckos. And these ones only just hatched last week. Very cute. We also do have some, as I call them, creepy crawlies. The glare is going to be really bad here. How do I get that? Okay, you can kind of see them on the side. So just on the other side of that bark there, right here, that is Go. G-O-H stands for get over here. And it's because he is a tailless whip scorpion. And many, many others. Leopard geckos, isopods, binos geckos, a pink Goliath, a bird-eating spider, a green bottle tarantula, a a curly hair tarantula. We also have a common snapping turtle. I can show you Toka. Here's Toka. She's cute. Not all that friendly. As well as 2 dogs, 2 cats, a rabbit, and a couple of corn snakes. So that's one of my primary hobbies that takes up time. The preacher asks a really interesting question, which is, how has Moshi dealt with your recording? Has it always been a thing, or has it been something she's had to adjust to? Also, bonus question, will you be recording in a frozen attic again? No, I will not be in a frozen attic. I am in a basement. This is where my office is. This is where I record. This is also where I do my day job. But it does get very warm because I also have all the animals down here, and most of them require heat, so I'm often down here in the 90+ degree weather with very little air movement, but not cold in the winter, so that's good. But what about Moshi and me recording? So going back to when we first met, I didn't tell her. It was kind of a dirty secret that I had, or at least it felt that way. Especially because shortly after meeting, somehow it came up that she hated YouTubers, hated the very idea of it. And she definitely had some reasoning for it. She had even met a fairly famous YouTuber who is an absolute horrible person. Not dropping any names, but she just did not like people who made YouTube videos. She thought they were all the same, loud, obnoxious, screaming, profanity. So I didn't say anything. And it took a while. It was well after Pudding was born, actually, that I finally sat her down and said, I have something to tell you. It's a secret that I've kept from you, and it's eaten me up alive, especially because I miss it. This is going back, about 6 years, 5-6 years ago. As some of you may remember, I was on a break for about 1.5 years or so, almost 2 years. Not a single video or stream, nothing from me. And it was during that time. And I missed it, and I wanted to come back. And so I told her, I make YouTube videos. And it was just this kind of hilarious situation where at first she was like, what? And then I actually showed her what I do and showed her, more importantly, the comments I get from some of you, where she just kind of took a deep breath and went, okay, this is all right. This is good. This is fine. And now I kid you not, I could not ask for more support from anyone for any reason. She has just done everything she could to make sure that this remained a possibility, despite us moving across the country, despite her working on her own artistic endeavors, despite us having 3 kids. She has always pushed for me to continue because she knows how much I enjoy this. She really does, and I'm just incredibly appreciative of that fact. Carl Wagner asks, one thing I've always wondered is what your job is. It has to be something to do with nature and animals, surely. Maybe a whale biologist?
I'm the whale biologist.
Better do what he says. He's a whale biologist.
Well, hopefully I just covered that. No, it's not officially. I do use my educational and environmental background whenever I can. But what I do day to day as a trainer for the federal government has nothing to do with it. So let's switch gears to one more topic that I want to talk about is in terms of updates, and that is support. I just mentioned support for Moshi, but support from all of you and what that can look like. And actually, Bill had a question. How many patrons would it take for you to give up working like a normal person and only stream and do YouTube videos? Probably no number that really exists, just because it is such a volatile place to work. And I'm a small channel, and I have no intentions of getting huge, especially with my new and improved change in the content I'll be creating. But even if I got up to $5,000 a month on Patreon alone, I would be too afraid because of what could happen with that platform in order to drop the very comfortable and secure job that I currently have. So while I appreciate the question, it doesn't really fit what it is I'm trying to do. However, because I'm no longer, as I said, chasing the almighty algorithm, revenue on YouTube is likely going to slip. Revenue on YouTube comes from ad revenue, and it comes from channel membership. Between those two, yes, I do bring in some every month, which has been very, very helpful. But if I'm going to produce less content, but hopefully better content, that number really could fluctuate severely week to week, month to month. And so, in talking with some people that I respect, of course, including Moshi, but also Crackleflint and Uli and Sentinel and Preacher, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me. I've decided that I am going to kind of relaunch Patreon. Now, a lot of you, just in me mentioning that, have already jumped on board and have pledged your support on Patreon. Thank you. I don't even know exactly why you've done it. Obviously, you see something or you believe in me enough to do so, but thank you. But for everyone else, if you are at all interested, there are going to be 3 tiers. There's a $1, a $5, and a $10. It's Goober, Way of Blue, and Grossly Incandescent, respectively. But they all have the same perks. So if you are curious about what you get out of being a patron, here is what you get. First off, everyone gets the same access. So whether you're a $1 patron or a $10, it is all the same across the board. I want to make sure that it was fair and equal that way. There is a special channel on the Discord that is only for patrons and channel members. It is a place where you can hang out. I'm always there. You can talk to me directly very, very quickly. That is only for patrons and channel members. But I'm also starting a new thing called the Patreon Cast. I've seen other channels do this, and it is a great way for me to connect directly with the patrons. So once a month, I will do just a short 30 to 60 minute video where I'm going to talk about the channel, where we're at, where we're going, answer some of your questions directly or respond to some of your comments directly on that Patreon Cast. And it'll just be a place for us to spend some time together and for me to further extend my appreciation for what you're doing. All patrons will also get access to Everything Possible videos 2 days ahead of time, as long as I can make that work, which I believe I can. Any Everything Possible video that comes out Patrons will get access to 2 days prior, and we're also going to start up the credits again. So at the end of videos, hopefully within the next week, I get this rolling again. All patrons and channel members will have their name listed in some sort of credit format at the end. Just a way for me to say thank you. But the reason I'm really investing into the Patreon format is so I can really take my emphasis off of YouTube's algorithm and the YouTube revenue. So even as I start to see that slip, I know that I have incredible people backing this channel up because they believe in what I'm trying to do. So for those of you who have, thank you. For those of you who even consider, thank you. Now, I've already mentioned channel memberships. So many of you have already jumped on board the channel memberships. A little bit less that you get out of that. You do get a cool Jello icon next to your name. So when I'm live streaming or even when you're commenting, you'll actually see that icon there. But I also have the ability to do member-only posts on the community tab on YouTube, where I can send polls, or I can ask your opinion, or I can just address you directly. And that's through channel memberships. You click on the join down below the channel, I think under subscribe, in order to become a channel member. Now, gaming partnerships. This is one I haven't fully settled on just yet. I'm technically a partner with Humble Bundle, Green Man Gaming, Epic, Nexus. Basically, they all reached out and I said, sure, why not? But I've never done anything with it. I'm going to go through and select one of those to really focus on. And that way, if there's any games that you want, you can go out and you can purchase those games using either my link or my referral code, and you'll get the game you want, typically the cheapest around, because I want to find the cheapest one around, and then I'll just get something a little bit back. But I'll announce that more when I focus on or decide which one I'm going to do. And then other support, though, it's just watching my videos, sharing my videos, commenting, joining the Discord, spending some time with me, letting me know what it is I can continue to do for you, or just letting me know, what you think of the content. It really means the world to me. And in terms of support, it hardly gets better than that, honestly. So Patreon, channel membership, some sort of game site partnership, and then just watching and commenting. Now, some of these next questions, and we're wrapping up here soon, might be a little bit difficult for me to answer. And I haven't prepped answers for any of these. So let's see how I can do. Brown Jersey asked again, what would be your PvP build in any of the Dark Souls games? I don't PvP. And it's going to be interesting in Armored Core 6 because apparently PvP is a fairly large part of that community. I'm going to try it. But in terms of the Dark Souls games, it would be something funny. It would be, I remember Iron Pineapple did the whole, rolling spiky boys with the Armor of Thorns. It would be something like that. Or it would be some sort of cosplay where I joined your game, instead of attacking you, maybe I cower in a corner, I drop gifts. It would just be something to hopefully make the host chuckle or smile or scratch their head and wonder what in the world I'm doing. But it wouldn't be anything serious. It certainly wouldn't be anything for me to try and win with. Captain Azanis asks again, would you describe yourself as a completionist? Yes, painfully so. Absolutely painfully so. I've played through Dark Souls 1, I don't know how many times. I've played through Bloodborne, I don't know how many times, but I have very real shiny-itis. I know where all the shinies are, which means I'm going to go get them. It's something I'll never need to use. Right now in Dark Souls 2, still level 1. I just went through, and if you've seen the video, I went through so many deaths to get a great sword that I will never be able to use with this character. It requires 25 dex and strength, and then 20 intelligence and faith. I can't hit that no matter how I gear up at soul level 1, but I had to get it. It hurts how much of a completionist I can be, really truly. So yes, I do. Chicken Sandwich, what are your thoughts on the gaming industry today compared to your childhood? A lot of people will talk about how, back in my day, you paid $50, $60 for a game, and you got the complete game. There was no DLC, there were no patches, the games worked, and that was it. But what about when they didn't work? Or what about when the game was $50 or $60 and only had a handful of missions or just a few hours of gameplay? Not to mention the graphical limitations, the technical limitations those games had. So I don't look at it with rose-colored glasses. Yes, some of my favorite games of all time are still from my childhood. Legend of Zelda's Link to the Past has not been surpassed for me. The original Mario is an incredible platformer that I still like to play. Do I prefer them over games today, though? No. I prefer bigger, more beautiful, expansive worlds with incredibly rich storytelling and characters and potential for more content if I liked it so much that in a year I will have even more to enjoy. Do I think that the gaming industry sometimes really steps on itself by releasing broken games and offering microtransactions and DLC, which clearly should have been part of the main game? Absolutely. I'm not going to disregard some of those incredible missteps that the industry has undergone, but in terms of me comparing it to the games of yesteryear and the games of today, I prefer the games of today. Now I know I just said my favorite game is Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past, but there's a lot of nostalgia there and there's a lot of memories there. But the games right now, oh my word, 2023 has to be one of the biggest and best games or years for gaming that I've seen in my lifetime. Let me know in the comments below, what years have surpassed 2023 in terms of games? Doctor Who, okay, actual question. If you could get one weapon fully functional from any game in real life, which would you choose? Some people actually responded, and I heard the portal gun, and there were some Bloodborne trick weapons. I want the glue gun from Prey. I just think that's so cool, because it was used to freeze enemies, it was used to completely traverse the landscape and bypass areas, and if I could just use that, I could repair so many things around the house, I could get up to the roof easier, I could keep my kids quiet if I needed to. The glue gun from Prey. Greek asks, what was your first video game? It would have been something on the Commodore 64, probably Pong or Brick Breaker. I don't know for sure, but one of those, most likely, or maybe Frogger, probably Frogger. I'm gonna go with Frogger. Final answer. Jeff Plays, do you think Elden Ring is a Dark Souls sequel? Maybe not a direct sequel, but like Dark Souls is an indirect sequel to Demon Souls, so kind of like a spiritual successor. No, I don't. I think it's fun to theorize about Demon Souls, Dark Souls, Bloodborne, even Sekiro, Elden Ring. I don't think that there's any official canonical connection. I have no problem with people coming up with these theories and making videos on it, but I personally don't subscribe to any of those. I think they are standalone with homages, allusions, and even direct references to previous titles, but I don't think there's any true connection. Jeff also asked, do you prefer being over-leveled, under-leveled, or somewhere in between for Soulsborne games? Somewhere in between. I like to level organically. So as I am progressing through and I'm collecting soul items and killing enemies, killing bosses, I will use those to purchase gear, to upgrade gear, and to upgrade my character through leveling, but I don't like farming. I don't like feeling like I have to farm. As soon as I feel like I have to stop and grind for levels, I feel that the difficulty has outpaced the game itself, and I don't like that inorganic difficulty spiking. So as long as I can stay with the difficulty of the game through my own skill increasing, but also my level increasing through a natural level up process, that's where I want to be. I don't want to be over leveled, and I only want to be under leveled when I'm doing soul level 1, and that's just as a challenge. Matthias Rain, have you seen the content coverage on the game The Last Faith? Yeah, a new Metroidvania that's coming out. I was actually just looking at that. I signed up for the beta, so we'll see if I can get into it. Really interesting looking game, and very well could get a one-off on the channel, I think. But also, Matthias had another question. You're stranded on an abandoned island, but you had the ability to have and play 3 games. Which would they be? Probably all survival games. Green Hell, Stranded Deep, and Don't Starve. I don't know. If I'm on an abandoned island, I probably have other things on my mind. But if this is the whole, desert island thing, you can only have 3 things. Probably Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past. Death Stranding, because I want to finish it. Doggone it, I want to finish it. This is gonna shock some people. Dark Souls 2. I'm having so much fun with it, and I don't want that fun to end. And there's so many other builds that I want to try. Yeah. Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past, Death Stranding, Dark Souls 2. Who saw that coming? Oglin asks, do you like when bosses in Souls games have more phases? I'm not against it, but I prefer when it is the exception rather than the rule. To expect that every single boss is going to have 2 or 3 phases, it takes the surprise element out of it. In Dark Souls 3, the Sister Frida fight was awesome. Now, at the time I didn't enjoy it. And the reason I didn't enjoy it is because there are 3 distinct health bars in that fight. And I didn't appreciate that. And I'll talk about the psychology behind that in a little bit. But that was just, you beat her once, and all of a sudden, now the guy in the chair is coming at you. You beat them, and all of a sudden, Frida resurrects again with Black Flame. All of those phases were very, very cool and extremely distinct. So it was like 3 fights in one. So as long as it is the exception rather than the rule, I'm all for it. Now, if they change their move setup halfway through or become more aggressive, I think that's fine. I don't see that as necessarily a new phase. It's just the boss is getting desperate, and desperate times call for desperate measures. Now, the psychology of the Sister Frida fight is what gets me. If you're going to have multiple phases of a fight, I want 1 health bar. Now, you can delineate that health bar. You can even put a marker so I can see when I'm entering into phase 2, but I want 1. Here's why. In that Sister Frida fight, she has 1 health bar. You kill her, the next phase starts, and they together have 1 health bar. Next, you have a 3rd health bar. To me, it feels like 3 fights, but you don't have any chance of replenishing in between, and it never felt fair. Psychologically speaking, I wasn't prepared for 3. It was basically a boss rush, let alone a boss fight, or instead of a boss fight with 3 distinct phases. And I'm not a big fan of boss rushes myself. So just psychologically speaking, that never sat well with me. But for a boss to have multiple phases, I'm okay with it, but I want it to be occasionally, not every time. Rizaris, what would you say your ideal game would be? The one that contains everything you've ever wished for in a game. How in the world do I begin? I want a rich world that I can learn about and read about and hear about the characters that have shaped that world. I want characters that already or still exist in the world that will interact with me, but also have their own adventure. In Dark Souls 1, I know we didn't see it a whole lot, but with Siegmeyer, you would actually see him throughout the world, and he was kind of undergoing his own adventure. I love that type of storytelling. I also love environmental storytelling. Skyrim, I think, has some of the best. You'll come across a cottage. I'll never forget this one. I found a cottage along a river with a tree that had crashed through it, and a skeleton with a fishing pole and a journal. And it talked about how he was just out fishing, and he mentioned something about how, his wife didn't want him to go, but he had to go out one more time to try and feed them. And while it was very sad, it was just a really nice piece of environmental storytelling that you'd completely miss if you walked on by it. It had nothing to do with the plot, but I love that. I do like character leveling, and I want the leveling to make sense. Now, Skyrim did this not great. It's very easily exploitable, but I would like my character getting better at something to matter. What was that game? Was it Kingdom Come? That was like this. Like when you sneak, you get better at sneaking. When you shoot a bow, you get better at archery. To me, I want something organic like that. As I practice a particular skill, that skill improves. Not, I'm going to kill a whole bunch of enemies, and now I can decide that suddenly I'm better at magic. I understand that that is the typical RPG trope, but it doesn't make any sense. Alright, I just killed this boss with my bare fist, now I got 10,000 XP to spend, and now suddenly I can throw lightning. What? I would rather start small and start using a particular skill. So if I'm using bare fist, I'm getting stronger and I'm getting better with fist weapons. If I'm using a dagger, I'm becoming more dexterous and faster, and I'm better with small weapons. Bows, magical staves, casting chimes, whatever. I would love to see that implemented in a very meaningful way. If that exists, let me know down below. Boss fights, I love big cinematic boss fights, and I want the boss fights to only happen sparingly. One of the reasons I find Elden Ring to be draining is the 160 plus. That's too many bosses. Not every single dungeon and cave needed to have a boss. I know that's for some reason a hot take, but to go through a tiny cave and then to fight a rune bear who just so happens to be a boss was silly, and I didn't appreciate it. So hopefully some of those would meld together well into the perfect game, but then again, it could be an absolute flop. Germanium. So, Mr. Jello, when are you going hunting at night for bells? I bet that's where your level 3 stone recipe is hiding. I think this is in response to my blind Elden Ring playthrough. So I haven't been hunting at night for bells. Zephy, given your experience, what do you feel is an underrated build in a Soulsborne game that you've tried, adored, but feel others should pay attention more to? Everything's been done, and I typically don't have very interesting builds. I will say this, though. bow only is a blast. At least in Dark Souls 3, which I did the entire game with bow only. That was a lot of fun. So if you've never done it, manually aiming especially, so much fun. The Old Mundane, are there any projects that have been on the back burner for perhaps years that you still have interest in creating eventually? Everything Possible in Bloodborne is easily at the top of that list. And that's all that I'm going to say right now. SM Cut 80 asks, who's the most villainous Souls NPC across all the games? Patches doesn't count. It's too easy. Easy. Lycia. Lycia from Dark Souls 2. She is a liar. She is a swindler. She is using religion to fool the masses into giving her exorbitant funds. And then she also just tries to kill you. There's nothing redemptive about Lycia. I would dare say she's worse than Patches. Sergeant Wolf, also known as Chadley, considering your channel and the content you create, namely Soulsborne, Souls-likes, and your desire to be family-friendly, do you think those decisions have hindered growth? And if yes, would you consider a second channel with edgier, more adult content? Let me address the second part first. Would I consider a second channel? Yes. Still am, very, very strongly. Would it be more adult and edgier? No. I don't want to limit or lock any of my content behind any sort of age restriction, whether they are official age restrictions on YouTube or just parental age restrictions. So people saying, oh, I don't want you watching him. I've heard the way he speaks. I have kids, and I want them to be able to watch any of my stuff if they wish. So even if I were to start a second channel, it would simply be to cover different games and different topics. Honestly, I've been playing around with the idea of doing it for bigger RPGs where I could just do a slow playthrough of Skyrim or Starfield or Baldur's Gate. So that's on my mind. If that's something that's interesting, let me know down below. I can't promise anything. And if I did do that, it would be secondary to the main channel, and the main channel would take priority. In terms of, do I think that it has hindered my growth? To a degree. Unfortunately, some of the biggest and most explosive growing channels are ones where there's a lot of yelling and screaming and cursing and profanity and adult humor, but that's just not me. So while it may have hurt me, I don't regret it, and I will not go back on that regardless. So possibly, in terms of what I'm playing, yes, absolutely. Do I think you can grow only covering Soulsborne and Souls-like? Yeah, you can. Will you grow faster than someone who's covering every big game out there and being able to cover it entirely? No, not a chance. You aren't even going to be playing in the same pool. I'll be wading in the kiddie pool, and you'll be, surfing the waves in the big wave pool. I don't know why I use the pool analogy, but no, I wouldn't be able to compete, but I don't regret it. I think it may have hindered my growth, both of those things, and that's okay. Again, it's not going after that algorithm anymore. Franca, but just curious, would you consider yourself a Sunbro, Warrior of Sunlight, or Blade of the Dark Moon, Blue Sentinel? No judgment, just curious. Sunbro all the way. I have no interest in PvP, and just as an analogy to life, I have no interest in confrontation or competing against anyone. I want to help everyone. I want to engage in glorious cooperation with anyone and everyone and help them achieve their goals in game and in real life. So Sunbro, all the way. Believe it or not, that was all the questions. Wow, this was long. This was long. If you've made it this far, thank you so much. The last thing that I want to talk about is just the streaming. So right after this video, provided I can get this edited and uploaded on Sunday, which is August 20th, then I'm actually going to stream today from 10 a.m. to noon. And I don't know what I'm even going to play. It's just going to be something casual, something for me to hang out and talk to you all about, maybe clarify some of these answers, or any lingering questions that you didn't get answered. I can answer them then. But I want to stream on Sundays, I think from 10 to noon, 10 a.m. to noon Eastern time. And then for the second stream, which is my hope, my personal goal, that would be on Thursdays, Thursday evenings, probably from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. again, Eastern Standard Time. That's my goal. But my primary goal right now is to redirect the channel, to inject more passion and pride into my work, to finish the projects that I start, and to be more honest and transparent when something's not working with all of you. I think I have talked enough. I now need to start editing all of this. I can hear Bruce, the Tegu, is quite hungry, so I'm going to have to go feed him. But I'm going to just leave you with this. Thank you so much for being with me for all this time. Thank you for the support through watching the channel, commenting, leaving me such incredible messages that really just impact me deeply. For those of you who have joined on Patreon or are considering it, thank you for that. For all of you channel members, amazing. I don't even know why you do what you do, but you do, and hopefully it's because you believe in me, and I hope that we can continue moving forward with this channel. So thank you so much for watching. Thank you for the questions, and I'm so happy to say that I will see you next time. I don't know how to fade this out, so this video is just going to keep going. Enjoy all that stuff.